Welcome to Fully Booked, the bookish podcast where I'll chat about all things book and reading related. Whether you're new or a pro reader, there's something for everyone to learn. I'm here to help you on your reading journey and find that next great read that will keep you fully booked. Hello, readers, and welcome to episode 20 of Fully Booked. I'm your host, Natalie, and today's episode, I decided to hop on the bandwagon, albeit a bit late, but better than never, and wanted to talk about some new and upcoming book releases in 2025. Now, normally, I'm pretty bad at keeping up with new releases and end up reading books months, even a year after they've been released. However, recently, I've seen a lot of people in the online book community talking about all their anticipated 2025 book releases, so I was able to get some ideas and curate my own list. And hopefully my list, as well as others, will be able to inspire you to pick up some fresh new books this year. And honestly, I'm so excited to start talking about all these books, so I'm not going to waste any more time here, and let's get into some of these anticipated releases coming soon to you and me. Alright, so first up on this list, we have Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams, which has a release date of January 7th, 2025. Emily Walker hates having her carefully crafted world disrupted by anyone, most of all her legendary nemesis, Jack Bennett. He's the opposite of the wonderful heroes she dreamed up in her double life as a romance writer, which is why Emily was perfectly happy when Jack left Rome, Kentucky mid-school year with his fiancée. The last thing Emily saw coming was Jack's return at the start of the summer after calling off the wedding and ending his relationship. But he's here to stay, as her colleague and her neighbor. Jackson Bennett is glad to be back, eager to renovate his house and work on the next mystery novel under his best-selling pen name. But when he realizes he's now neighbors with one woman who has always pushed his buttons, he discovers something he's even more excited for: thwarting Emily and her petty plans to sabotage his return. With their chemistry-fueled animosity at an all-time high, Emily accidentally sends an email to their school's principal that could reveal her secret literary side hustle. She needs to steal back her manuscript, and Jack, she hates to admit, is just the man to help her. Surprisingly, Jack agrees. Will their unlikely alliance put an end to their rivalry, or could it lead to a steamy plot twist they never saw coming? Now, this one will have already released by the time you're listening to this episode, but I simply had to put this on my list as I've adored all of the Sarah Adams books that I've read so far, which all the ones happen to be a part of her When in Rome series. While a bit cheesy and overly sweet at times, Sarah Adams is one of those romance authors that you can always rely on for the ultimate sweet romance, and sometimes that's just what you need. And I really like this cast of characters in the town of Rome, and I also remember how curious I was about Emily at the end of Practice Makes Perfect. And my prediction was correct in that the third book in the series would be about her. I'm a bit surprised as I initially thought this one was going to be a childhood friends to lovers, second chance romance, as she mentioned something about Emily's first or former love and how hurt she still was by it, which made me think that that person was going to be our MMC. Instead, this one is a rivals to lovers romance and is book related since our MCs are both writers. I have to admit, the premise almost reminds me of Beach Read, but more rom-com-y. Either way, I've already got this on hold on Libby and hoping that I get it in time to read next month. Now, moving along to another romance that is being released in 2025, we have Deep End by Ali Hazelwood with a release date of February 4th, 2025. Scarlett Vandermeer is swimming upstream. A junior at Stanford and a student athlete who specializes in platform diving, Scarlett prefers to keep her head down, concentrating on getting into med school and on recovering from the injury that almost ended her career. She has no time for relationships, at least that's what she tells herself. Swim captain, world champion, all-around aquatics golden boy Lucas Blomqvist, I'm sorry, I do not know how to pronounce his last name. Anyway, he thrives on discipline. It's how he wins gold medals and breaks records, complete focus with every stroke. On the surface, Lucas and Scarlett have nothing in common, until a well-guarded secret slips out and everything changes. So they start an arrangement, and as the pressure leading to the Olympics heats up, so does their relationship. It was supposed to be just a temporary, mutually satisfying fling. But when staying away from Lucas becomes impossible, Scarlet realizes that her heart might be treading into dangerous water. I must say, my history with Ali Hazelwood has been a bit up and down because of the order of books that I've chosen to read. It's almost like an on and off again relationship where there are things you love and hate about the relationship, so you keep going back but keep breaking up. Which is interesting because while I haven't enjoyed all of her books, I still think she's a good all-around author in terms of her actual writing for the most part. So, of course, when I heard that she was releasing a sports romance in 2025, I was immediately intrigued and had to add this to my list. I'm already iffy on this one though, as usually sports romances are not for me. It's likely because I'm not a very athletic person myself, so I usually can't relate as much to the characters in these types of books. And again, going back to Ali Hazelwood, I'm hoping this book isn't too insta-lovey like some of her books have been, and that there is some genuine connection between our two mains. After all, going off the deep end can usually pay off more. Also, I don't know why I keep seeing Shallow in my head every time I hear this title. Okay, moving on to a very different kind of book, we have Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins with a release date of March 18th, 2025. When you've been set up to lose everything you love, what is there left to fight for? As the day dawns on the 50th annual Hunger Games, fear grips the districts of Panem. This year, in honor of the Quarter Quell, twice as many tributes will be taken from their homes. Back in District 12, Hamish Abernathy is trying not to think too hard about his chances. All he cares about is making it through the day and being with the girl he loves. When Hamish's name is called, he can feel all his dreams break. He's torn from his family and his love, shuttled to the capital with the 3 other District 12, a young friend who's nearly a sister to him, a compulsive odds maker, and the most stuck-up girl in town. As the games begin, Hamish understands he's been set up to fail. But there's something in him that wants to fight, and have that fight reverberate far beyond the deadly arena. So I don't know why I didn't enjoy The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the book and the movie, as well as I personally felt the movie was way too long. But yet, I'm excited to read another prequel set in the Hunger Games universe. I think it's because Snow wasn't a likable character to read about, but young Hamish and his Hunger Games is something I have been wanting to read about for a while. Even in the movies, you can tell how much trauma and loss Hamish must have experienced in his younger days, which is reflected in his adult character. So it will be exciting to finally have his first-hand account on how he survived and battled his way through the 50th Hunger Games. And I don't know if this was mentioned at all in the Hunger Games trilogy, some of what happened in his Hunger Games, but I definitely don't remember the point about them having double the tributes taken. So yeah, I guess that just raises the stakes for the games even more. Also, my book club already chose this as our March pick, so it looks like I'll have even more obligation to pick this one up. Okay, moving back into romance, which, by the way, I realized that the rest of the books on this list are all romance, and I'm gonna be honest, I can't help myself. I have my favorite authors, and I gotta put them on there and keep track of all their new releases. But anyways, this next book is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez with a release date of April 1st, 2025. But despite that specific release date, this is not a drill or any kind of joke, and that you would think, as Abby Jimenez herself confirmed the release date, title, and cover, everything for this new book on her Instagram, if you get what I mean. Okay, there might be no such thing as a perfect guy, but Xavier Rush comes disastrously close. A gorgeous veterinarian giving Greek god vibes, all while cuddling a tiny kitten? Immediately, yes. That is, until Xavier opens his mouth and proves that even sculpted gods can say the absolute wrong thing. Like, really wrong. Of course, there's nothing Samantha loves more than proving a jerk wrong. Unless, of course, he can admit he made a mistake. But after one incredible and seemingly endless date, possibly the best in living history, Samantha is forced to admit the truth, that her family is in crisis, and any kind of relationship would be impossible. Samantha begs Xavier to forget her, to remember their night together as a perfect moment, as crushing as that may be. Only no amount of distance or time is nearly enough to forget that something between them. And the only thing better than one single perfect memory is to make a life, and even a love worth remembering. Okay, you guys, I'm scratching my head at the moment because I swear someone mentioned that there was a subtle connection and reference to at least one of these new characters in Just for the Summer, but I don't remember what it is now or who said it. Although, I will say that while a lot of other interconnected standalones take place in the same small town, where all the characters are heavily mentioned in each book, regardless if they are the main love interest in that story or not, Abby Himna's books are definitely more subtle in terms of how characters from previous books are brought back and worked into this story, or also how new characters are introduced in the current story, which I appreciate in the sense that you really don't need to read each book in order to appreciate the story and setting. Although some people will say otherwise for Abby Himnes's books, that the order does matter and it makes it, more whimsical and magical, getting to be introduced to the stories and these characters in order. But that is my personal opinion, that you don't necessarily need to read them in order. Anyways, regardless of the connection, I can see that this is another story where at least her FMC is facing some very real life struggles that is keeping our two MCs from being together, which can be heartbreaking, but so much more relatable for us as readers to read about in a romance. Plus, the fact that she still works so much fun and humor into each of her books makes her another great romance author, and I'll definitely be getting my hands on this one as soon as I can. Okay, the next book on this list is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, with a release date of April 22nd, 2025. Alice Scott is an eternal optimist still dreaming of her big writing break. Hayden Anderson is a Pulitzer Prize-winning human thundercloud, and they're both on balmy Little Crescent Island for the same reason, to write the biography of a woman no one has seen in years, or at least to meet with the octogenarian who claims to be the Margaret Eves, tragic heiress, former tabloid princess, and daughter of one of the most storied and scandalous families of the 20th century. When Margaret invites them both for a 1-month trial period, after which she'll choose the person who will tell her story, there are 3 things keeping Alice's head in the game. 1. Alice genuinely likes people, which means people usually like Alice, and she has a whole month to win the legendary woman over. 2. She's ready for this job and the chance to impress her perennially unimpressed family with a serious publication. 3. Hayden Anderson, who should have no reason to be concerned about losing this book, is glowering at her in a shaken-to-the-core way that suggests he sees her as competition. But the problem is, Margaret is only giving each of them pieces of her story. Pieces they can't swap to put together because of an ironclad NDA and an inconvenient yearning pulsing between them every time they're in the same room. And it's becoming abundantly clear that their story, just like the tale Margaret's spinning, could be a mystery, tragedy, or love ballad, depending on who's telling it. Of course, it wouldn't be a complete list of anticipated releases without getting to talk about Emily Henry's newest book. Not only is the romance intriguing, but also the premise of having the chance to write this famous person's biography. I'm not sure if I can say with complete confidence that it's a pattern, but I find it interesting how Emily Henry seems to swap back and forth between having characters with other types of jobs versus characters who are in the publishing industry. And I mean, of course it makes sense for authors to have a bit more obsession with writers given that they are one themselves. I definitely appreciate that not every book of hers is about someone in the publishing industry or who's a writer, as that would probably get too repetitive, which makes me more excited to return to the world of the publishing industry through the eyes of these newly created characters. And Emily Henry never disappoints, so can't wait to see how she's done it again in this one. And last but not least, we have One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune with a release date of May 6, 2025. I never anticipated Charlie Florek. Good things happen at the lake. That's what Alice's grandmother says, and it's true. Alice spent just one summer at a cottage with Nan when she was 17. It's where she took that photo, the one of 3 grinning teenagers in a yellow speedboat, the image that changed her life. Now Alice lives behind a lens. As a photographer, she's most comfortable on the sidelines, letting other people shine. Lately, though, she's been itching for something more, and when Nan falls and breaks her hip, Alice comes up with a plan for them both. Another summer in that magical place, Barry's Bay. But as soon as they settle in, their peace is disrupted by the roar of a familiar yellow boat and the man driving it. Charlie Florek was 19 when Alice took his photo from afar. Now he's all grown up, a shameless flirt, who manages to make Nan laugh and Alice long to be 17 again, when life was simpler, when taking pictures was just for fun. Sun-slanted days and warm nights out on the lake with Charlie are a balm for Alice's soul. When she looks up and sees his piercing green gaze directly on her, she begins to worry for her heart. Because Alice sees people. That's why she's so good at what she does. But she's never met someone who looks and sees her right back. I'm curious for this one, as so far I've enjoyed Every Summer After, and this summer will be different. And I was excited when I learned that this book is about Sam's older brother, Charlie, who honestly, I kind of adore, despite what exactly happened in Every Summer After. And if you've read that book already, you know. Now, I know that so far we've seen the childhood friends to lovers, best friend's brother, and I believe Meet Me at the Lake has the 24-hour trope, where the two mains only spend a day together, then reunite years later. I'm not exactly sure how this book is going to go based on the blurb alone and like what the main trope, I guess, is going to be, but if it turns out to be He Fell First, I'm going to be eating this one up. Well, I'm not sure if and when I'd visit Barry's Bay, because FYI, this is actually a real town in Ontario. I'll be delighted to pick this book up when it comes out and let Carly Fortune work all her summer magic to transport me once again to a beloved lakeside town and into the lives of these new and old characters. Also, another note, hoping I get a copy early as I already requested this on my NetGalley, so let's see if that pulls through. Otherwise, that is my list of anticipated new releases in 2025. Except that I did have even more books that I want to talk about, but didn't want to overload your ears in one long sitting. So, if you want to hear about the rest of my anticipated releases in 2025, you can click the link in the show notes to get access and listen to part 2 of this episode. And as always, your support is well appreciated here on the Fully Booked podcast. Aside from that, I'd love to hear via socials what book you're most looking forward to reading in 2025, whether it's a new release or not. And as always, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you back here in episode 21. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you were able to take away something, and be sure to follow the podcast for more bookish content. Until next time, stay fully booked, and I'll talk to you soon.